Oh, hello. It's another Ask Me. This time, Ask Me, not Ask Us anything. We have no guest today. Scott is traveling, so it's only me, and only me. Anyways, if you've been here before, you know the drill. If you haven't, the gist of it is that you type questions, I or me and a guest, and there is a guest, I'll try to answer those questions. And that's all there is to it, right? So ask anything you want. I might answer with I have no idea, or I might actually answer it. We'll see. So type your questions. That's what you should do. And I'll try to answer them. And here's the first one, which says, hey, you're hiring devs for startup. Would you hire specialists or generalists, aka DevOps engineers? I would, for a startup, you don't have a luxury really to hire specialists, kind of, oh, I know only fine-tuning database, right? Or I'm an expert in storage, right? You cannot do that in startups. So if that's what you mean by specialists, then yeah, you're hiring generalists, but you're hiring really, really good ones. And on top of that, you are still hiring specialists, but specific to what you're trying to do, right? So if your startup is somehow related to Kubernetes, then you will need a specialist in Kubernetes, but not necessarily a specialist in other areas that will come later, right? So in other words, if you're a startup, hire both. Hire specialists around the area that your startup is in, right? You have to have people who really know it well, and then generalists for everything else, right? And hire, do not, when you're hiring, the price is not something you should think about much, right? You need a small crew of people that are really, really good, right? So don't try to hire 10 people, hire 5 who are exceptionally good. You cannot afford to hire more people, even if they cost the same, simply because that's not how startups work. Okay, let's see what's next. What's the best way to configure and manage API and Ingress in OpenShift? Is a good practice to let Argo CD manage this with Cert Manager running on the same cluster? So I cannot answer this question specifically for OpenShift, since I haven't been using it for a long time, right? I don't like OpenShift. I don't use OpenShift, so I cannot answer specifically for OpenShift. But I can answer in general, because the rules are more or less the same. Should I let Argo CD manage this with Cert Manager running on the same cluster? Yes. Cert Manager should be in the same cluster. Cert Manager is great as a solution to manage your certificates. You should use it. For certificates, you should use Ingress, or even better, you should use Gateway API. If you're starting now, right, if you don't have already a running cluster, you should actually have both Gateway API and Ingress. And the reason for both is because most third-party applications are still based on Ingress, so you need it. But for your own apps, you want to, if you're starting now, you want to use what is coming after Ingress, and that's Gateway API, right? Ingress is dying slow death. That's how it is right now. And yes, on the same cluster. I see no reason why it would be anywhere else. Okay, from Jerome, Crossplane V2 and providers. Now that Crossplane V2 can compose non-MRs, does the argument that control plane providers need to be a special case as opposed to just normal hand-delivered operators change? First of all, Crossplane could always compose non-MRs, to be clear. It's just that in the past, you had to wrap them into Kubernetes object, which is an MR. So it would be non-MR that is wrapped in an MR, right? Kubernetes object served as a wrapper to make something that has nothing to do with Crossplane be composed by Crossplane, right? Now that wrapper is gone, right? The functionality was always there, but you don't have to wrap it inside of an object now with V2, which was released like 2 days ago or something like that. It's awesome. And that means that, yeah, you can use any type of operators, doesn't matter whether or any. Let's be more precise. You can compose any CRs, right? Coming from any CRDs, whether they are deployed with Helm or something else, does not really matter. it's much easier. You should use it, right? Now, whether to use MRs from Crossplane providers or something else, that's up to you. I still think that for many use cases, MRs from Crossplane providers make a lot of sense simply because they give a certain level of uniformity. So, for example, if you're having, I don't know, something related to GitHub, something related to AWS, maybe something related to Azure, they all work and they're all structured in a very, very similar way. While if you combine, let's say, ASO with ACK, that would be Azure operators, and ACK would be AWS. They work very, very different, right? There is a difference in quality, but that I won't enter right now unless you ask me. Okay, let's see what's next. It's going great. Hi, Victor. Any plans to create a video on a topic other than AI? For example, comparing Kubernetes API gateway versus Ingress. So I'm not planning to compare Ingress with API gateway. I'm always mixing whether it's API gateway or gateway API. Anyways, simply because I already did that, right? And the reason why most of my content is now related to AI is because the content I'm publishing on Mondays is not something that I think through, like, hey, let me think what the audience wants or it doesn't. This is not my business. The topics that I'm exploring are almost always related to what I'm working on, right, or interested in at the moment, right? And right now, that's AI. I think it's very exciting. It's a brave new world. So for good or bad, and I know that many people are disappointed with that, but it is very likely that in upcoming months, at least, if not longer, it will be very much related to AI. But almost everything I do around AI, outside of YouTube, just to be clear, is still somehow related with SREs, DevOps, infrastructure applications, Kubernetes, what's not, right? So it's mostly AI in a way how it applies to the same subject I was exploring before. But the takeaway from this is that I'm not dedicated to this channel, so I don't think of subjects that would please viewers. It's just that I'm working on certain things, and then whatever I work on, I publish as a video as well. So in a way, until I change what I work on, I cannot change the subjects. Sorry for that. But I can answer any questions here, unrelated with AI. And we have a new member, Stefan. Oh, thank you, Stefan. That's so amazing. Thanks so much, really, for being a member. I really appreciate it. That helps pay the bills, and there are actually relatively big bills to run the channel. Okay, so another one from Hubert. What do you recommend for smaller organizations or orgs where Kubernetes is too big of an investment and who want to get AI into production? Is there a case for doing it without Kubernetes? So the question is not really whether AI is too big for production. The better way to phrase it would be, because you can run very, very small clusters. You can have a managed cluster in AWS or Azure or Google or whatever with 2 nodes, right? The question is first and foremost whether you need features that Kubernetes offers, like kind of do you need fault tolerance? Do you need things to recuperate after they fail, to be highly available, to manage them through APIs, and so on and so forth, right? Whether you like using GitOps, for example, right? Because that's mostly working in Kubernetes and so on and so forth. There are certainly cases where Kubernetes is not a good fit, but very small organizations and organizations that hopefully rely heavily on third-party services like, hey, I'm using Google Cloud Run. That's cool, right? I have only a couple of applications, or I'm using Azure Container Apps if you're there. If you're in AWS, I don't think that there is anything really good over there. Lambda is just horrifying. Anyway, so I would still recommend Kubernetes, to be honest. So it also depends greatly on how experienced anybody is in Kubernetes. You should have somebody who knows Kubernetes. And if you have somebody who knows Kubernetes, then I don't think that Kubernetes is harder than any other alternative, to be honest. It's harder when you go crazy and say, oh, I'm going to install service mesh, and I'm going to install this, and I'm going to install that. If you go crazy, it's hard. But If your use case is simple and you keep your Kubernetes focused on your use case, then Kubernetes is actually not harder than anything else. I think that's almost like a myth, right? Because people overburden that Kubernetes cluster with too many things, and they say this is complicated. Yeah, because you just overcomplicated it, right? I don't think it's complicated. There is a learning curve, but I think that somebody should always know Kubernetes. But anyways, if you don't, and yeah, there is a question: who wants to get AI into production, right? I'm not sure what you mean by AI in production. If you can clarify, then I can help. But if you're talking about you generating models, that's not small anymore, right? That's big. So you definitely want Kubernetes for that. If you're talking about inference, kind of running existing models and then doing inference, if it's only one model and that's everything you do, then yeah, run it on an EC2 instance, right? But the moment you start having more than a few things, Kubernetes is a good choice, right? And most companies are actually running either generating models, training models, or running inference, or running agents in Kubernetes these days, even MCPs, right? And that's the beauty of Kubernetes. It's more or less the same interface, no matter whether we're talking about AI or we're talking about something else. If you're very small, then yeah, skip it. But you need to be very, very small or to really don't know anything about Kubernetes. Oh, that reminds me. There is a sponsor, the typical one, always the same. Codefresh, yeah. So Codefresh, sponsor of this stream. If I think that somebody already asked, or you haven't, about Argo CD or GitOps, what's not. If you want to do training related to Argo CD, beginner, somewhere in between, very senior, there is a phase for everybody, or they're broken into a couple of different levels. So you find yourself, you will learn something. Go there, check it out. Done by Codefresh, mostly written by Kostis. Kostis is absolutely amazing. I truly think that his content is absolutely amazing. So the course must be amazing. Try it out. Use Victor. You get 50% off. Thank you, Codefresh, for sponsoring this stream. Let's go back to the questions. Where was I? There we go. What does it say? Hi, Victor, I'm a great fan. Oh, thank you. Thank you, David. You recently added AI to your channel brand. However, the DOT is still everywhere. I'm curious, do you have any plans to complete the full rebranding now that AI took place? I'm not good at marketing rebranding, so I'm not sure when I'll do rebranding, to be honest. I need to find somebody to do it for me. I'm not sure when I'm going to do rebranding, right? And I think that actually, even though it doesn't look like that, I'm still talking about the same things, right? I'm still talking very much about the tasks that SREs do or DevOps do, if there is such a thing. Maybe sometimes developers, cloud, Kubernetes, infrastructure, applications. My subjects did not change. So I think it's pretty much DevOps toolkit still. It's just that AI is now definitely one of the tools in that toolkit, right? I just increase the toolkit, and I do that all the time, right? We're getting new tools all the time, and sometimes that's a new service mesh. Sometimes it's cloud code, right? And now almost all investment, all development is going into AI one way or another. All existing companies, startups, especially those in CNCF, are either going to go bankrupt if they haven't succeeded in generating profit so far, or they are going to pivot to AI. I don't think that we will even see much innovation, to be honest, or much new stuff going on around pure Kubernetes or even pure cloud, simply because just as in the last years, almost all innovation was on top of Kubernetes. So if you're not in Kubernetes, you're missing out on most of what's coming. That was the story, like, until a few years ago. And now we have a similar story, just it happens not to be Kubernetes, but still very much related to Kubernetes. But now it's kind of okay. So now the next wave is AI. All the innovation is happening there. And what will be very interesting, I believe, starting very, very soon. I expect it to start before the end of this year, that now we're going to start getting more specialized solutions. Right now solutions in the AI space are very generic, and you can do anything you want with it or nothing, right? But I think that starting soon, the end of the year, in the worst case scenario, we will see more specialized solutions. So this is for observability. This is for managing resources. This is for this for that. You're going to start getting same specialized solutions we were getting before, but this time trying to leverage models, agents, MCPs, vector databases, graph databases. It's going to be very exciting, but the whole goals of what I'm doing is still the same. It's just tools are changing. But going back to your question, no plans to do full rebranding. It's still called DevOps Toolkit, really. It's just that I want to make clear that I might mention AI sometimes. Hi, Victor. If I do something very custom and repetitive inside the Kubernetes cluster, like upgrading components with my custom code, what operator framework code should I use? I know Python, Go, or Python. So, you can do operator with anything. I strongly recommend doing it with Go, simply because Go is lingua franca, or the most common language in Kubernetes. And I strongly believe that we should, in general, not stick to a single language, like, I write only Python and that's all, everything I do, or Node.js or Go, right? But try to use languages that are working well for specific use cases, right? So like if you're doing some kind of something related to data, something related to models, let's say, it would be silly not to choose Python, because even though you can do almost everything in every language, Python happens to be the most commonly used language in that area. You should use that, right? No matter which language you come from. The same thing for Kubernetes. Kubernetes, almost everything in Kubernetes is written in Go. Almost all projects on top of Kubernetes are written in Go. It has best libraries to accomplish everything you need. If you're building operators, it definitely has better libraries than any other language. It has also frameworks, so on and so forth. I think you should do in Go. And I think it's very exciting to try. Even if you never tried Go, try a new language. That's always exciting. And I think that good programmers should be working in any language that you give them, right? Because it's not about learning specific syntax, but it's about really understanding how code works in general. And if you're not there yet, then it's an opportunity. Try Go for Kubernetes. Where are we? I see. From Radu. Okay. $10. Thank you so much. This is so amazing. Thanks. So some engineering teams at larger orgs are essentially building a super MCP that will connect to all single tools across the SDLC. So they also build an orchestration layer that ties all tools all together. Yes, I think that many of the MCPs are just silly, to be honest, because agents today are perfectly capable. First of all, models today already know almost everything that's publicly available. So if you need to do something in GitHub, they already know how to use GH CLI, right? If you need to do something in Kubernetes, they already know how to use kube control CLI, and so on and so forth, right? And agents are perfectly capable of executing those instructions coming from models and actually running those CLI. So I don't see the value in using MCP that will do the same things that are already very easy to do, and I repeat, the same things that CLIs do, right? Or even direct API calls. I see value in MCPs that are more focused on something, right? On user intent, kind of, if you want to deploy your application, this is not just reflection of kube control or reflection of AWS API, but hey, this MCP does something special, kind of, it helps you manage PRDs, for example, or issues, or helps you deploy an application. It has certain logic in it. It is more than just mirror of a CLI or MCP or an API. And in that case, And those are the types of MCPs I see a lot of value. And those MCPs can be pure code, or more likely they will actually have agents inside, right? So MCP that has some code that does something, and then an agent that inside of that MCP that does something else, depending on what needs to be done, and so on and so forth. So I think of MCPs, the good ones, as being wrappers of specific types of tasks that help us with specific intents, right? Rather than just replicas of things we already have. And in that case, going back to your question, orchestration layer and so on and so forth, I'm not sure what you mean by orchestration, but if you mean orchestration of the communication between a client agent like Cloud Code and that MCP, or some kind of a workflow, oh, you need to provide details about this, or you need to do this, and so on and so forth, then a big yes, if that's what you mean, right? Because I think that there is a lot of value and something that is very overlooked, and that's some missing workflows, right? We just assume that we ask, hey, give me a database, right? And MCP can help a lot to kind of force the user to think more, kind of like, oh, it goes back to the user or client agent. What kind of a database would you like? That would be some kind of workflow. Oh, would you like it to be exposed to the internet or no? And so on and so forth, back and forth, collect the information, and then propagate that information to an agent or a model or what's or not. First, initially, MCPs are new. Usually, MCPs at the very beginning, like any new technology, people just make silly things, but soon we're moving into more mature MCPs probably next year, and then we will see patterns that really work. Actually, I'm publishing a video about that in a couple of weeks, another one. Okay, where were we? Hey, big fan, how are you? I'm always great, always great. What else? Nginx versus Caddy, which is HA proxy, which one do you prefer? I don't know, but I haven't used Caddy, to be honest. Nginx is almost hardly maintained and almost dead. And HA proxy was never good, really. Actually, I'm not now sure that. Are you asking me about Shantanu? You need to clarify. Are you asking me about Ingress, or just kind of proxies outside, nothing to do with Kubernetes? If it's outside Kubernetes, I would probably use Nginx because HA proxy is horrible. And Caddy, I don't know what, I haven't used Caddy, right? If you're talking about in Kubernetes as Ingress, then none of those. Like use something like Traffic or something like that, but not Nginx and not HA proxy. For outside, I prefer Nginx. If that's your question, clarify it, and I'll try. So Cloud Sonnet has 1 million context window now. Oh, I did not know that. That must be new, because it was 200K until yesterday, or until not long ago. Is it only for AMP inference, or does it apply to Cloud Code as well? So Cloud Code is not really trying to limit your context, and uses your context to the fullest until it reaches the limit. Now, I'm not sure whether Cloud Code has it hard-coded to 200K, and now you need new release of Cloud Code to change the limit to 1 million, or it discovers through API what is the limit. I'm not sure about that, so it might not apply to Cloud Code. But the point is that, and that's one of the big differences between Cloud Code and Cursor, is that Cloud Code does not have interest to limit your context. It just kind of accumulates it as much as it can, which poses other problems, but that would be a separate question. And if now the limit is 1 million, your Cloud Code will, if it doesn't already, will support it in no time, up to 1 million. Other tools like Cursor, they're actually going a completely opposite direction. They're actually compacting your context all the time, right? And that's one of the reasons why actually Cursor works worse than Cloud Code. because there are other reasons, but one of them is that it compacts your context all the time because you're paying subscription to Cursor, right? And Cursor pays money to Claude, to Anthropic, or to Google, or to GPT, OpenAI, and then they have very strong interest to keep their costs to a minimum. And the smaller the context they send there, the better it is financially for them, right? So their incentive is for you to have smallest possible context, even if you don't want that, they're going to compact. Cloud Code, on the other hand, is the opposite, right? Because they are first and foremost provider of those models, right? Kind of, oh, you want to spend more money, go for it. Kind of like, why do I care, right? So Cloud Code will compact your context when it reaches the limit, or when you say /compact, I think, right? Well, Cursor does the opposite. What's up with Bitnami deprecation and ESO project status? So I think the Bitnami is part of VMware. VMware basically gave up on Kubernetes. Basically, that's what happened after VMware was purchased by remember. So Bitnami part of VMware. VMware stopped caring and thinking that Kubernetes is going to bring business to them. So I'm not following closely Bitnami, but I think that I guess that Bitnami is in the same shape as anything else related to VMware, meaning Kubernetes out. Right? We don't care about that. We don't maintain it. We don't invest in it. Right? And external secrets operator, I haven't checked the status, but I use it. I haven't noticed anything. I haven't been watching closely lately how many commits are made and how active the project is. So now you made me wonder. I will check it. But Bitnami, no. ESO, I haven't checked the status in a while now, to be honest. Okay, from Hubert, thank you. I was thinking of, for example, org that is not mainly AI focused, but want to, for example, run RAG modeling inference to support employees internally. If you're not experienced with Kubernetes and you have the need only for 1 or 2 servers, 3, yeah, don't use Kubernetes, right? But if you're experienced with Kubernetes, then any size fits, because simply once you understand Kubernetes, it's easier than anything else. Easier for the same type of task. So it can become very complex, just to be clear, Kubernetes. But when it becomes complex, it's because you're doing complex things. And then I can actually safely say that those complex things are probably even more complex outside Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes is very easy if you don't do complicated things. I would still use Kubernetes. But maybe if you 2 or 3 servers, why not? Go out, that's fine. But not more than 3 servers, I would guess. What do you think about Bitnami's new policy? What is best to do if I'm already using it so much? I'm not following Bitnami. I stopped using Bitnami a while ago. So unfortunately, I don't know. I was not aware about the new policy. If you can, I can get informed about the policy, and then we can discuss it in tomorrow's stream on DevOps Paradox. If you send it to Darin, and he will include it in the news, and then we can discuss it. But now I know nothing about it, so I cannot say much. What is the best infrastructure as code for 2025, in your opinion? Now, what I'm going to say, you can say that I'm biased, or you can say or not, or it's up to you. Anyways, I believe in Kubernetes being orchestrator of resources and manager of resources and extensible API. So my vote will go for using Kubernetes to manage resources, no matter what those resources are. I don't care whether it's a pod, or it's external storage, or it's EC2, or it's Azure something, whatever those resources are, they should be managed by Kubernetes. I strongly, truly believe in that. And so all those tools that are not designed for Kubernetes, like Terraform, Ansible, this or that, I think that they have their place. They were amazing, and you should continue using them. But if you're starting something new, I think it's Kubernetes. Simply too many benefits to ignore. And then within Kubernetes, there are many different tools. I work directly in Crossplane as a project. You can say that that's what makes me biased, or you can think that I work with Crossplane because I truly believe in it. That's up to you to choose. I think that Crossplane is the one that furthest went away, further than other projects in that area. You can, if Crossplane for one reason or another is not your cup of tea, there is Crow. Choose that. There is Kubevela. I wouldn't choose that anymore, but that's an option. There is Cluster API. There are many, many solutions to manage your resources through Kubernetes, no matter whether those resources are internal or external. Do that, right? My vote goes for Crossplane, but I'm biased. Okay, oh, yeah, going so fast. I hope you're doing great. I'd like to know what your take is on DevOps SRE applied to high performance computing environments. Have you seen it? Any best practice you can recommend? I haven't been deeply involved. I have only superficial experience with that, and I'm trying to avoid giving recommendation or suggestions what to do unless I really dug into it. So I cannot say much about HPC. Sorry. I'm pretty sure it's essentially conceptually the same like anything else, just slightly different tools, but conceptually the same. But I haven't been in it deep enough to really answer the question. Sorry for that. Shadows layer AI is just a workload. Technology underneath remains the same. It's DataOps, DevOps, MLOps, YAMLOps, what's or not. Yeah, I agree. I mean, certain things are slightly different. Like, hey, if you're running inference, you might think about instead of thinking about CPUs, you think about other things. But there are some differences, but conceptually it's the same. Absolutely right. It's just processes running somewhere, and things that change depending on what you're running is that you might care more about storage, and in some other case about memory, in some other case about CPU or this or that. But it's all the same thing conceptually. And that's one of the reasons why I like Kubernetes. You have one API to manage whatever it is, go for it. From Tico or Tacho, what do you think about Vietnam's new policy? Oh, sorry, you already went through the question. I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I'll get informed after this stream, but now I'm not informed. From Laurentius, hey Victor, when do you choose for the next enterprise solution with open source, especially for enterprise, especially looking at it from the perspective of risk? So you cannot. Most of what you will use, no matter whether you pay somebody or no, is open source. Let's start with that, right? Even if you say I'm going to pay IBM now, Red Hat now, IBM or VMware or whomever, a huge amount of money, it's still going to be open source, just to be clear, right? All enterprise all commercial solutions these days, or almost all, are based on open source one way or another, whether that's 10% or 90% or 99% or 3%, I don't know, but it's all based on open source. So you will be using open source, whether it's a commercial or non-commercial version, no matter what, right? Now, and also you cannot, it's impossible to actually buy absolutely everything. I mean, maybe theoretically it's possible, but in practice it's not, right? It's not that every library that will be used in your code will be commercial, and an operating system will be commercials, and every single tool will be commercial, and so on and so forth. It's always a combination of commercial and free, and both of them are most of the time based on open source, if not fully open source, right? So the real question comes to what are the parts of your system that you should be paying for, and what not, which not, right? And you're paying essentially for two things on top of open source: additional features, like, hey, this open source project doesn't have single sign-on, but if you buy enterprise layer on top of it, then you get single sign-on, right? You're paying for additional features, and then you need to figure out whether you need them or no, right? If you don't need them, why pay? And you're paying for actually three things. You're paying for support, and you need to ask yourself, what do I need support for, right? This is critical. I want support. This, nobody cares. Kind of, oh, this is a library that indents JavaScript code by to the right. Kind of like, why would you pay for that? So, right. So you need to choose what you need support for. And finally, what are the things that you want to completely pass to somebody else and say, hey, you know what? I don't want to manage my own virtual machines. I'm going to externalize that as to AWS or something like that. And that would be SaaS, right? I cannot give you the list of what you should pay for and what not, because it depends from one company to another. So think in terms of strategic, right? Which tools or which parts of your system are strategic and which are not. And if it's strategic, yeah, pay for it. You're earning money, you should pay others. What's next? Let's see. What would be a golden approach to structure GitLab groups repos to implement automation following good practices? Fully on-prem, mostly Ansible, vSphere, no Kubernetes yet, small team, DevOps. I mean, you know, if you're asking me for best practices change over time. And what was a best practice yesterday is not necessarily the same as best practice today. And if you're asking me kind of what is the best practice so that your question can have two meanings or two answers. Like, hey, what would be the best practice without me changing anything? And then the answer is, I don't know, because how can you change something by applying best practice without changing anything? So I assume that's not. And then if you want best practices, then yeah, stop using, if it's fully on-prem, Ansible maybe makes sense, but Ansible makes sense only and exclusively for things that are not managed through APIs, right? So for example, vSphere, why would you use Ansible for vSphere, right? vSphere, unless you're using ancient version, exposes its operations through API, and that means that you should use tools that are designed to manage stuff through API, and that would be starting from Terraform and on, historically, not Ansible. Ansible is great for no API. I just need to go into this box and execute random stuff. It says no Kubernetes yet. I would say that unless you're really, really small shop, especially if you're self-managing, then Kubernetes is your best practice, right? And once you adopt Kubernetes, then you will get you will be able to do other today's best practices. You will start doing, you will be able to start separating business logic, which would be your applications, and everything else being outside of your applications, certificates, this or that, right? You will start separating things. You will start applying GitOps. You will start making everything dynamic. I think that many of the best practices that I would recommend actually would assume that you are actually using Kubernetes as the base, because most of the innovation that happened in the last 10 years is innovation on top of Kubernetes, and most of the best practices we have today are based on that innovation. So first best practice, adopt Kubernetes. There you go. From Ram, hey Victor, how come that credits in cloud code run out in moments while a subscription is seemingly unlimited? Credits in sorry, not cloud run, cloud code. Does it mean the quality of the context is different? I'm not sure I understand the question. Let me read it again. How come that credits in cloud code run out in moments while a subscription is seemingly unlimited? I mean, I don't use cloud subscription myself. I mean, I pay for the usage, so through company. So I'm not sure, but there are 3 levels of subscription. So it cannot be that all 3 levels are unlimited, right? There is a limit when you subscribe to Atropic, depending on which tier you chose. If you're going for, I think, $20 a month, it's very easy to hit the limit. Very, very easy. It's not, none of them is unlimited, just to be clear, or maybe the highest tier, right? The $200 a month gives you close to unlimited. I mean, not unlimited. there are still some limits, but it feels unlimited because it's very, very hard to hit those limits. But if you're on $20 or whatever is the lowest tier, oh yeah, you can hit the limits in no time. Darin, the person with whom I do podcasts on Friday, he hits those limits all the time. Simply, if you don't want to hit those limits, you need to go to a higher tier, which is, I believe, 200 a month, which can be considered very cheap or expensive depending on what you're doing and where you are. Trying to build ephemeral infra, which is portable and resurrectable via CI/CD, but time to resurrect is a lot. Provisioning NAT and Kubernetes nodes in order, which is the fastest cloud provider for it. So I'm not sure what is the fastest one. I would have to measure it to be, so I'm basing this on feelings. Probably if you do the scaling with Carpenter of nodes, that would be the fastest one, whichever provider you choose. So I would strongly recommend Carpenter there, especially since you can tweak it when nodes are concerned. And KEDA for scaling your applications, including to the zero. Right? I'm not sure whether that's what. No, sorry. I'm reading your question. It says which is portable and resurrectable via CI/CD. So we might have a terminology issue here, right? When I think about ephemeral environments, that's environment where you do something, I'm done, and I destroy that environment, right? So there is nothing to resurrect. I would create a new environment when I need it and do something else and then destroy it. So I'm not resurrecting it. I'm creating environments, doing something in them and destroying them. Assuming that you correctly chose the word resurrect, I would guess that you're actually talking rather about scaling to zero, right? Which is slightly different. And that would be then what I mentioned before, Carpenter for nodes and KEDA for workloads. And you don't need CI/CD to resurrect it if it's scaling to zero. If it's destroying again, then you're still not resurrecting, right? No CI/CD involved there. You don't need that. Sorry, for scale to zero environments. If you're talking about ephemeral environments, then that you spin up as part of your CI pipeline, like, new release, let's build it and then let's deploy it here and then run tests and then destroy it. So no resurrection. Then, yeah, something of vCluster is probably a great choice if you already have clusters. Just spin it up, do your stuff, tear it down, and then have still Carpenter to scale your nodes so that you don't have more nodes than what is needed. And probably the biggest latency you'll see there is waiting for new nodes to happen. And depends what your kind of acceptable threshold is. If there is existing capacity in the nodes, then it should be very, very fast. If you need to create an additional node, then you might need to wait anything between half a minute, maybe a minute, in a provider if you do things right. I'm not sure whether that is slow or not. Oleg says traffic. Yes, traffic is great. Yes, Ingress for Kubernetes. Yeah, so traffic. Oleg's answer here. Traffic is great. Contour is also good, but since most of the maintenance comes from VMware and VMware gave up on Kubernetes, then I'm not sure what the future of Contour is, though. Traffic is great. Okay, Mircea, S is currently low on maintainers, and they published an announcement that they will stop version releases until something changes. Now, I wasn't aware that ESO is low on maintainers, but I think that we will see a lot of such news. Those situations will be increasing very, very soon. And the reason is very simple. Open source project does not work through casual maintainers. Kind of, maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll have 2 hours to dedicate to this project, right? That's great. Those types of contributions are absolutely amazing, but successful open source projects have dedicated maintainers on that project, right? People who are dedicated and they spend either full day working on it or at least considerable amount of their time working on it. And that means that they need to be paid somehow. And that means that somebody is sponsoring those projects, either because they have money to throw away or because they see future commercial or present commercial interests in those projects. So, and since slowly almost all Kubernetes related companies built on top of Kubernetes related projects are dying out slowly, most of them. Most of the projects will die with the moment companies behind them die, and that will put significant number of projects in no maintenance mode. It's going to be very, very sad, but that's the reality right now. Financially, whole Kubernetes, whole CNCF is a complete disaster for vast majority, right? Everybody thought that that's an opportunity, turned up to be no opportunity, and the only beneficiaries are really large companies like Google and AWS and so on and so forth. Everybody else is losing money, and projects are going to start dying very, very soon. That's very unfortunate. Official statement. We've decided to stop releases until more long-term maintainers join our team. Exactly. And more long-term maintainers will not join the team unless somebody pays those long-term maintainers. That's the reality of it, because most people cannot dedicate full-time work on a project without being paid for it. Like, I couldn't work full-time on a project for free. I could not afford that, right? Okay. What else? Where are we now? Oh yeah. Another $10. Rust, top. First of all, thanks for $10. I really, truly appreciate it. Or is it 10 euros? Even better. Oh, I'm getting richer. Thank you so much. And yes, Rust is great. I'm not sure that it's the right choice for Kubernetes, something if that's related to a previous conversation, but it's great nevertheless, depending on what you're doing. Now, where was I? Pulumi, yeah. Pulumi is one of the choices. Go for it. Do you scratch your... Okay, come on, man. That wasn't cool at all. Okay, so we're being trolled by an idiot. Is Longhorn and RWX obsolete if PostgreSQL, Redis, and Mini.io handle up-level data, up the replication? I'm unable to find a scenario where it is really necessary. I was never fond of Longhorn myself, so I think it's not obsolete, or some kind of storage of that type is not obsolete. It will continue being used, but I'm not sure about Longhorn. I have very, very low expectations from it, or low opinion on it, to be honest. But that's a better question for Scott, because it's more used on-prem, to be honest, than in managed services, and I'm not that focused on on-prem, to be honest. Okay. Prince Hulk is trolling. Sorry for that, everybody. I need to start reading messages before I put them on a screen, which is very annoying because I want to answer all your messages. Where was I? I have made a PR to Dex IDP, but it seems that the project is pretty inactive. That's in line with what I said before. Projects in this area, unfortunately, will be dying because companies failed to monetize on them, most of them. And that's very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Kubernetes rewrite in Rust along with kernel, will it happen? Kubernetes rewrite will not happen, to Rust will not happen. Simply, it would be too much work for no especially good reason. It would make more sense if Kubernetes would decide to do a rewrite in a penalty of the language, then yeah, Rust would be on a list of choices, and that could be the choice. I'm still doubt because most maintainers are working mostly with Go, tribalism at work over there. So, and I also don't believe that we will see a rewrite of Kubernetes. We will, if we see, if something starts going in that direction, that will be rather something similar but new and sufficiently different emerging and replacing Kubernetes than Kubernetes getting a rewrite, to be honest. Kubernetes as a whole. Now parts of Kubernetes have been rewritten, many parts, right? Like the first thing that comes to my mind is that Docker was all over Kubernetes code base, and then it was rewritten to not have hard-coded Docker or anything like that, right? And many other parts have been rewritten, but the whole Kubernetes, that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. From Jeans, do you know if Dex has been in live support since? I don't know about Dex specifically. I haven't been watching it closely, so I don't know whether Dex is in live support. I'll be surprised that it isn't, to be honest. Alexei, what's your personal opinion about Rust? I haven't written as much. I haven't used Rust as much as I used Go and some other languages, so I don't have strong opinion. I did use it for a while, and I loved it. I think it has a steep learning curve compared to other languages, but once you pass it, it's very elegant, and I really had good feelings about it. But I haven't written enough in Rust to really judge it, right? For now, I can only say that it feels good after the initial pain passes. Where are we? Oh, another one. Where are we? Oh, another one from Alexei. What's your opinion of open models versus Gemini versus Sonnet? It's very hard for me to judge that, and let me explain. I don't believe that it's only about models. It's as a minimum, it's a combination of a model and an agent that uses that model, right? And before OpenAI, meaning in this case, I mean GPT-5 occurred or came or was born, it was very clear that GPT is the worst model to use for coding specifically, right? And then then it was between Sonnet and Gemini. I think that both are more or less good, equally good, give or take. But I chose Sonnet simply because I choose Cloud Code, right? Once I got used to it, I cannot go back to Cursor or VS Code. It just does not feel right for me. I'm not saying that everybody should do that, but for me, a Cloud Code or Cloud Code-like solution beats IDE. I still have IDE open in a second monitor, right? But for agentic workflow, personally, I prefer Cloud Code over any IDE-based agent. And there's the problem: is that I cannot reliably test GPT-5 with Cloud Code because it doesn't work there, or at least not without hacks. And then if I go to open code and use GPT-5 with open code, the results are not good. However, I cannot say whether results are not good simply because open code as an agent is inferior to Cloud Code as an agent, or because GPT-5 is not good, right? Or at least not sufficiently better. It feels like the model itself is more or less like Sonnet or slightly better, but Cloud Code makes that difference in favor of Sonnet, right? That simply no other agent is sufficiently good for me to use outside of Cloud Code. And I tried them all. Open Code, not good. Charm Bracelet, sorry, not Charm Bracelet, but Charm Crush, which is basically from a person that previously worked in Open Code, the whole dilemma, not good. What else is there? Gemini CLI, not good. So it's hard for me to say. What I can say, I cannot answer specifically for models, But what I can say is that if we talk about combinations, then Cloud Code with Sonnet beats whichever one you're using with GPT, right? But it's not necessarily because GPT-5 is worse than Sonnet. It's probably not, but because the combination is worse, right? Where are we? OpenAI is not good. I don't know. Honestly, before GPT-5, it wasn't good for coding tasks or software engineering tasks. GPT-5, I'm not sure yet. Simply, I cannot reliably test it with a reliable agent like Cloud Code. So I'm not sure, to be honest. Where are we now? Okay, going back. So assuming I do a custom operator from scratch in Go, what is the operator controller framework of choice nowadays? I think that for most cases, you should not go. In most cases, you can get away without really writing operator in Go or any language, or at least not directly. I think that using something like kubevela or Crossplane compositions or CRO will solve most of your needs for operators, because most of the time your operators are really assembling resources. Now, if you want to make something that is more closer to CMPG, or to say I have a better way to do config maps than using config maps, something very, very specific, then yes. But now my brain stopped. My brain froze. And now my brain does not want to let out what did I use, and it's been like 2 years since last time I wrote the operator from scratch. My brain froze. Sorry for that. And in most cases, you don't need. Oh, I hope that I will remember which one. I don't know what's happening, why I cannot. Anyways, I want to provide DevX, okay, developer experience, no Kubernetes at this moment, mostly clustering deployment on Linux VMs, on-prem vSphere, containers in VIP, very small team. How should they organize repos to be modular secure? It's hard to answer, because I consider secure being that you're not pushing things to your machines, but that would be an Argo CD that is pooling, and you cannot use Argo CD. I'm not sure how to organize records to be modular secure. It's still very hard, because most of the advancements we saw in that area somehow depend on Kubernetes. I'm not sure, to be honest. Where was I? Another one. Thanks for vlog, Rust Top. Yeah. Where were we? Was the next one. Speaking of maintenance, I have been pushing for we do more of this stuff at work, give more stuff back to the community. Yes. If you can contribute to projects, that would be great, because but good open source projects, those that you should be using, they're always a combination of random contributions and dedicated maintainers, right? And dedicated maintainers, again, random contributions. I contribute to a number of projects in my free time when I can, but then they still need dedicated maintainers, meaning people who are dedicated completely to that, and that requires a bit more, requires salary, unfortunately. Lol, we need moderators here. Yes. Somebody was trolling. Can you please try zero copy buffer? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, Alexei. Oh, we're almost out of time. Let's go fast. Do you recommend network policies in a small Kubernetes cluster, small business, or something more in depth for security? I recommend always starting with the easiest possible, right? Do network policies. Don't go further than that until you discover that you need further than that. However, you should still get informed about all the variations and options that are available, because very often you don't know that you need more until you find out that more exists, right? So be informed what exists, and then do the minimum possible until you realize that you need more. What else? Oh, we are almost at the top of the hour. Clouds for agentic AI, GPT for reasoning. Claude for agentic AI, GPT for reasoning. I've been using GPT kind of like from a browser, and that worked decently well, to be honest. But I'm just, most of what I do happens from Claude Code or alternative. And then, yeah, from Claude Code, it's Claude. And I agree, you sold me on Claude Code. I know many people that don't like it, don't feel comfortable with it, and prefer IDEs. I was one of those. I was rejecting it, but now I'm on the other side. I'm on the dark side. Quinn's new model almost close to Claude. Haven't used it in depth, so I cannot say. And we are out of time. There are a couple of questions I haven't answered. Thank you, everybody. This time we got a lot of support from you guys. Thank you from Alexei and who else? It's Alexei going crazy. That's amazing, Alexei. Thank you so much. And from Raidu, I think. Thank you so much for the support. See you all next week. I'm not sure whether next week we have a guest or no. We'll find out. Anyway, see you next week. Ping me anytime outside of the stream if there is something I can help. See you all. Cheers.